Listener discretion is advised.
Yep.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Nailed it.
I'm Kenyon.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Amanda.
And this week, we have a very special fan pick for you, brought to you from Ashton Salazar.
Coocher.
Ashton Salazar Coocher.
That's Ashton Kutcher's middle name. We just never knew it.
Salazar's
Actually,
a great name.
Ashton was a very good selector
fits.
for this specific topic.
It's
Oh,
fitting.
yeah. I didn't even
Ash.
think about that.
Ton of ash.
Ton of ashes, and we will get to it.
Oh, my God.
Ashton wants to shout out their friend WM.
Sure.
Get it? I mean, the W is also next to the
Way
E
to
on the
know.
keyboard, so it could also be M, and somebody could have fucked that
Could have
up.
been my fault.
Could have
So
been it.
shout
There's
out,
no way
Check
to know.
my emails. I'm going to check the email right
Salazar
now.
Slytherin. Could have been anyone's fault.
No. Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o.
Fuck.
Do we have an answer?
Question. Hold on.
I'm just gonna, hello, my lady. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Hey.
We're just gonna do a show. Look over here, it's a windmill, yeah. Hello, my lady. Hello, my honey. Hello,
gonna
on
drink.
top of the
It's
house.
probably fine. Jesus Christ. Let's just move on. I'll correct it if we need to correct it.
All right. So shout out to Ashton
And their friend.
and their friend. Ashton has selected the topic of crematory crimes.
Which is not an ice cream shop.
No, but you will
No.
cream your jeans for
Lots
these
of creams.
cases.
Lots of creams.
I had already done a drunk dive about.
I know, and that made me so mad because it was like the only other case in
Yes.
this category.
So check out that drunk dive on Patreon. Also,
It's good.
all of our
M.
video episodes.
M.
Nailed
It's
it.
E-M.
My
M.
detective work was
That
correct.
That was Ashton's typo originally, just so you know. It's M.
Got it.
Thanks, M.
So Ashton selected my case. Amanda, did you had to find your own case?
Oh, yeah. I did find one, and it is something.
All
It's not super long, but it's she juicy.
That is what he said. And we should get to our wine crime pairing
That's
for crematory
You're right, that
crimes.
is what she said, isn't it?
It's not super long, but it's
She juicy.
That's
Good
what she
Lord.
said.
Okay,
That's
yes.
what he and she said. That's what they
Wine. So I misunderstood the assignment when I picked the wine for this, which I did, I feel like, in a state of, I don't know, like disassociation from the world probably like 2 months ago. So for some reason, I just equated like crematorium crimes with like people obviously dying and then like being scattered and like given back to the earth. Like, you know,
Okay.
sometimes you'll like throw people's ashes like into
Yeah.
the ocean.
Yeah.
Or
we'll
some
get
people-
to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or some people like literally my dad and my grandma, like they and my grandpa, that they just buried their ashes in a graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was into like the burial
Soil.
thing. Yeah. So I picked Restless Earth from Winc. And now I'm realizing that like that's sort of a dumb pairing.
No,
But this
it
wine
works
is also
for
really
my
good.
case.
Okay. So I'm going to go with it. This
Yeah,
wine is
we'll
also
go with it.
It's really, really good.
Remains that aren't dealt with properly are restless.
That's true. And that happens in my case for sure.
Mhm.
Yes.
So This is an incredible selection. This is the Restless Earth Syrah. And we have, oh my God, I'm sorry. I have a dog hair in my nose. We have featured the Restless Earth Syrah and their Grenache before, but this is a newer vintage. This is their 2019 vintage. I ordered this a while back. It is currently, unfortunately, sold out, but it will be back because they rotate the Restless Earths, and these are like a signature Winc wine, and they are so good.
Like, as we record, they might be sold out, but like...
Exactly. Very, very popular. This is it's 100% Syrah. It's not a blend. It's a nice, full-bodied red wine. It's nice and dry, but it's like fruit forward, so it does still have a little bit of a sweet balance. It's not like aged in oak or anything, so it's not going to give you that like woody, like vanilla kind of flavor to it. You're going to get
too
like
creamy.
No, not too creamy. What you're going to get in this wine is like smoky bacon.
Smoked
Sign
bacon.
me up.
Right? Eucalyptus.
This is maybe too close of a pairing.
Maybe I nailed it. Didn't realize it.
Erotic?
Erotically close. You're going to get some pomegranate. You're going to get some red cherry. It's delicious. This is a Paso Robles viticultural area, California red. She clocks in at 14.8% ABV.
That's
Honey,
high.
please
Damn.
get ready. I love it. So yeah, Syrah just like thrives it's a heat loving grape. So like the Paso Robles region of California is like a perfect place for these grapes to reach their full potential. It's so good. And this one, like I said, it's not aged in wood, it's aged in it's not barrel aged, it's stainless steel. So you're just gonna get the purity of the grape.
Nice.
And it's gonna knock your socks off. And she's a popper. So grab your nice pop wine key from our online store at wineandcrimepodcast.bigcartel.com. And I should have started this before.
I'm drinking a beer. Felt like a beer day.
What kind of beer are you
It's kind of a
drinking?
beer night.
Yeah, just a Blue Moon. You know.
You saw me standing alone. What?
That was so stupid.
I know.
I got a watermelon wake right
You're
here.
going crazy today.
And may I introduce my new girlfriend,
Oh, we love her.
Bobby Joe.
Oh, Bobby Joe is so
for,
cute.
For the folks that are just listening and not watching this video, what is Bobby Joe?
Bobby Joe is a bobcat skull. She's been not bleached, so she has a natural tone. She's a little bit yellow. She's lost her little teethers, as most cats have, those precious little front teeths, just because, she was a wild bobcat. She was just chomping
down on too much stuff.
Yeah, went away. And just for anybody wondering, it's a friend of mine who collects naturally deceased animals
Death happens
around
in nature.
Iowa, among other things. But this one happens to be naturally deceased. And yeah, she looks beautiful, and I love her. She's my new desk item, and I love her. Bobby Joe.
She's
Well,
gorgeous.
welcome to the Wine Coven, Bobby Joe.
Shall we pop in honor of Bobby Joe,
Oh, yes.
who once was of this earth and is now of your desk?
She is of my desk.
Here we go.
Bobby
It
Joe,
was a really
hear
good
that?
pop, and then I just knocked against my
mic.
microphone. Ooh.
Well,
Nice pop.
Oh,
Oh, nice pop.
cheers, my dears. Cheers to Bobby Joe.
Cheers to Bobby Joe. Cheers to your wine. Cheers to this topic. Cheers to Ashton.
Fruity and delicious.
And M, not WM. Or whatever. Who cares?
WMNAN. I'll sing it again. 'Cause I'm a man.
All right, Lucy, what is our background and maybe psych for crematory crimes?
No psych. There's no psych.
We need to pick a topic that has psych at some point.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. Well, actually, I incorporated a little bit of psych earlier. I came downstairs this morning And Ray, my cat, had dumped over his entire bucket of dry cat food. There was dry cat food fucking everywhere.
Ooh.
And he's just looking at me like, I have no remorse. I have no emotion, no remorse. And I was like, you're a fucking sociopath. I hate you. I love you, but I don't know how to handle you because you're clearly insane on a pathological level.
It's a mess. Yeah.
All cats and most toddlers are sociopaths.
Oh, yeah.
And then, children mostly grow out of it. Cats don't.
I would argue, though, that, like, a lot of cats are able to, like, notice when they've done something wrong. But at the same time, it's sort of dangerous to, like, anthropomorphize animals and, like, especially cats. But, like, whatever. That's for another episode. Here we go about crematoriums. Okay.
I could go on about cats.
Ashes to ashes,
I really
dust
could
to
go
dust.
on. We'll get to it.
Everything is dust.
Starting with cremation. So cremation is a method of final disposition of a dead body through burning or combustion. Alternative death rituals emphasize one method of disposal of a body. So it could be inhumation, which is burial.
Okay.
And I think that we most often hear of this as like exhumation, like digging
exhuming,
up of a body.
Got it.
Yep,
okay.
exhuming. So this is
the opposite.
inhumation.
That makes sense.
Cremation, as we'll be thoroughly discussing.
Turning us into cream.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Making us into cheese. Or exposure. So just like open air. Like
decomp.
Decomp. So these have gone through periods of preference throughout history. A crematorium is where a dead body goes to get cremated. As nouns, according to one source, and I'd argue that these are really interchangeable, but as nouns, the difference between crematorium and crematory is that a crematorium is a place where the bodies of dead people are cremated, while the crematory itself is the establishment or furnace that cremates the bodies.
Oh.
But I think in like Western like linguistics, they're really interchangeable.
I
So we're
definitely
just
use
gonna,
them pretty interchangeably in my case.
for our purposes, we're going to use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
I mean, crematorium is more fun to say, but also a weirder word that has like completely unrelated connotations in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like an emporium.
Yes, like a vomitorium,
Yeah.
Got
like
it.
an auditorium.
Right.
Full
It just
of
seems
vomit.
like bigger and grander.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's just a weird word. So I think I probably lean towards using crematory
crematory.
more often.
Okay. Well, if any of my language moving forward perturbs you, you just let me know.
I will, Mama.
I'm not going to yuck your crematorium yum. Your crematory yum.
Don't yuck
Crematory
my
yum.
crematory yum. Gross.
Okay. I love it. I'm disgusted and I love it.
I love it. We're moving on.
I love it. I'm
ish.
going to put that on merch.
Not to yuck your crematorium.
I'm disgusted. I hate it.
I
I'm
love
definitely
it.
putting it on merch. Let's move on. Modern crematoria contain at least one cremator, also known as a crematory retort or cremation chamber. So this is like the oven.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is like
I
the
talk
this is like the
about
section.
retorts in my case.
I hope you have a
retorts-
witty retort ready.
Well, I feel like a retort is like the oven.
It's
itself.
the oven.
It's the oven.
Yep.
A purpose-built furnace. In some countries, a crematorium can also be a venue for open-air cremation. We'll get to the cultural circumstances of cremation a little bit, but I know it's just like very, very vast. It varies widely among cultures and religions.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I will acknowledge that that's like a very serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
In many countries, crematoria contain facilities for funeral ceremonies, such as a chapel.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, our good friend Jessica's funeral,
Yep.
they had a crematorium like in the basement, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
like
that.
she was cremated, I believe, in the same facility, but we did have like a visitation and a funeral, whatever, in the chapel.
My
Or
case
she
is
was
an
cremated.
all-encompassing facility like that, and
It's
I'm
a
pretty
one-stop
sure.
shop.
I'm pretty sure because my dad's remains were taken to the funeral home a block from their apartment. Very convenient, and I'm pretty
and it
sure
still charged you like $600 or some shit.
the ambulance fee was $1,000 to go take a dead body a block. My mom like
No.
laughed in their face and refused to pay.
Your
it.
mom
Good
was
on
like
ya.
dusting off the little red wagon, and they were like,
I'll do
"Ma'am."
it my damn self.
She had an Uber. She's like, you mean I have to cancel this Uber?
Yeah, an
Fucking
Uber.
kidding.
Loading my dad's corpse into an Uber would have been way cheaper. She would have just had to pay the $5 minimum in the tip. It would have been
Seriously.
that driver's easiest cab fare.
I've
Right?
done worse in an Uber, if I'm
Right?
being honest.
Anyway,
worse
I'm
for
pretty sure
less.
that facility was also that the cremation occurred on premises. I could be wrong, but
Of course, there are also laws about transporting dead bodies.
mine does
We all
both
know this.
in my case, so we'll kind of get to it.
My
Okay,
case,
well,
it's just the crematory.
It's not like a funeral home.
It's not a funeral home at all, and actually, that causes some problems.
Ooh,
And
I
we'll
love
get to it.
problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love problems too. But also like the like state limits and like the what am I trying to think of? Like the
Regulations.
like the codes
Mm-hmm.
for different funeral homes and crematoriums and whatever. So some crematoria also incorporate a columbarium, which is a structure like columbarium,
Okay.
like Columbia, columbaria, which is a structure for the respectful and usually public storage of funerary urns holding cremated remains of the deceased. So there, I have a couple of pictures on the drive of
You know I love a good urn pick.
columbaria.
Oh, these are
columbaria.
cool. Yeah, I like this.
Wow,
Yeah,
I've never
so-
seen that before.
So a quick word about the columbaria. The term can also be used to mean the nesting boxes of pigeons. The word columba means dove. So
Oh.
as you might be looking at, I have a picture on the drive, which will be on the blog, of a cave in Israel that is part of a series of large caves dug into soft rock with little holes all along the walls.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so there were several theories about their original use, whether it's for ritual burial, for growing pigeons to be used for ritual sacrifice, or for raising pigeons for fertilizer production. So it's not clear historically whether these areas with the little, like, tiny little holes and shelves were primarily for pigeons or for the internment of cremations.
Interesting.
It kind of looks like is it the wand shop in Harry
Oh
Potter?
yeah. Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
little
All the
boxes.
vendors.
Yeah.
Lots of little, like,
Totally.
shelves and pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so back to cremation. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. Quote, the practice of cremation on open fires was introduced to the Western world by the Greeks as early as 1000 BCE. So before Christ.
Before Common Era.
Before
Yes.
Christ even.
Before Christ even. They seem to...
Couldn't even.
He
For like
couldn't
another
even.
1,000, he couldn't even.
Could not even.
I am using that from now on. Before Christ even.
Even.
They seem to have adopted cremation from some northern people, pagans, as an imperative of war to ensure the soldiers slain in alien territory a homeland funeral attended by family and fellow citizens. So they were like,
Oh, like to
There's
preserve.
yeah, there's all these
Travel.
fucking dead bodies. Like, how
Yeah.
do we get them back to their families and their homeland? You burn them, you put them in little boxes, and you take them home.
Speaking of
Got
little
it.
boxes, Blanche is eating a beer box right now behind me. I was like, what is that sound?
He is so cute.
He loves it. He loves to eat cardboard. More power to him.
So corpses were incinerated on the battlefield, and then the ashes were gathered up and sent to the homeland for ceremonial entombment.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have a lot of history on this. It gets to be very clear. It's kind of wild. Cremation became so closely associated with valor and manly virtue. Ever heard of it?
I love dashes of toxic masculinity in my cremation, honestly. That is that completes the recipe.
Exactly.
Just a dash.
Also associated with patriotism and military glory, that it was regarded as the only fitting conclusion for an epic life.
To be
So this
burned.
was per the Greeks.
Okay.
So there's lots of cremation in ancient Greek literature, and here's a pretty little picture painted for us by Virgil's Aeneid, right? Aeneid,
I think
Sure.
so.
Aeneid. I think it's Aeneid.
Anus.
Anus, about a war between the Latins and the Roman Trojans. Quote, Virgil, this is from Encyclopedia Britannica, of course, again. Virgil describes how during a 12-day truce declared so that both armies could cremate dead warriors, the Latins burned many without ritual or count and later heaped the bones together, covering them with a mound of earth.
Okay.
So, according to this account,
Mm-hmm.
the Latins just kind of
Dumped
piled
them all.
all their dead bones together, kind of burned them, kind of put some dirt over them, whatever. They didn't really care.
Yeah.
The Romans, on the other hand, observed all the proprieties. They covered the pyre, the funeral pyre, with leaves and fronted it with cypresses. After it was set ablaze, troops shouted war cries, circled it, and cast trophies taken from the slain Latins into the fire. So it was
Wow.
very much a
That's a big ass ceremony.
An
was
event.
it was a display. Yes, it was a ceremony.
Also, trying to dehumanize the enemy in this historical account, being they didn't even give them proper funerals.
Right.
Oh yeah, the account was one thing, but I don't know how truthful this account is factually, but it does sort of. Well, we'll get to it. It talks about these cultural disparities between cremation versus burial versus whatever, they're dead, who gives a fuck, whatever. It's culturally there's a big schism between all of these ways in which we honor
Sure.
the dead.
Sure.
Okay, so back to the Romans. They poured the blood of animals onto the flames, and when the fires were quenched, washed the bones in wine and placed them in urns. So they were very ceremonial, very respectful of the actual cremains.
For me, that's a bit much.
I mean,
Just putting
it
that
is
out
a bit
there.
much.
Because I can see the wheels turning in both of your heads. Bit much.
For me,
Do not
I
need.
actually prefer the Latins way.
Just put me in that pit and cover me with some dirt.
Well, we'll kind of get back to the warfare situation, but in warfare during this times, there were hundreds and thousands of dead bodies. Really?
Just around.
Just around. I mean,
Infecting the
I
water.
get it. You want to
Yeah.
honor life, whatever. Oh, the infection of the water. We're not
Some
even
Cecil
there
Hotel
yet.
shit.
This,
Oh.
Get a
This-
Brita filter.
this, as far as they know, is just getting the souls up to heaven. They're not concerned with disease at this point.
Right,
This is
'cause
too
they
early.
don't-
This is
yeah.
way
This
too
This is
early.
pre-COVID.
This is yeah, they're just well, if we don't bury him, we'll just kind of let them hang out, whatever.
Right.
Whatever happens. Okay, so there were so many cremated soldiers that they built columbaria, so the places where you can store the ashes.
The
As a
P.O.
bi-
boxes.
I was just going to say, it's a
it's exact- it's a-
USPS.
It's a P.O. box of ashes.
I love
Right.
it.
And they built those as a business model because the rental of those spaces brought in quite a bit of money.
It's
So,
literally a P.O. box.
It's a P.O. box, but also people, okay, say Chad from your high school football team went off to war and then he died and he came back and you're like, oh, we want to honor Chad. We got to go to his little pocket of ashes in this columbaria, whatever. Like it's just a place for like the most famous villagers who like died valiantly. Their ashes go to this place, this
Became a
closet,
memorial
this tomb.
site.
It's a memorial site.
That makes sense.
And then that family has to like rent that space.
Dang.
So like
This'll come
you
back.
as the owner of the columbaria was like, okay,
I'm
take your
bringing
money.
this back.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
works.
so
Podcast won't last forever.
Yeah, we gotta
I'm putting
diversify
all
how-
my money.
We got to
in
diversify our
Columbaria.
assets. Yes. It is the GameStop of death stock.
I mean,
Get on it.
oh, we should GameStop some. Yes.
Some
Yes.
crematoria.
I hear you. You know what? I hear you. We should talk about this after the episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Take it offline.
So let's take it offline.
Can't give
So, quote,
away
by-
all of our secrets.
Quote, by about 100 CE, however, cremations in the Roman Empire were stopped, perhaps because of the spread of Christianity. Although cremation was not explicitly taboo among Christians, it was not encouraged by them because of pagan association and because of the concern that it might interfere with the promised resurrection of the body and its reunion with the soul.
Oh,
The most
yeah.
practical reason that cremations is that cremations were threatening to bring about serious wood shortages since so much timber
Yeah,
was
to get
being
it that
felled
hot.
for the pyres.
Which
So,
can also
like-
lead to like destruction of the soil and more landslides and
Yeah. So I think on a religious note, they were just like, no, like you burn the body, you separate the body from the soul, and that's not how Jesus died and was resurrected. So like Jesus didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
But also, it takes so much fucking wood
Right.
and so much heat to burn a body, which we will get to.
yeah.
It's just not sustainable. So like
Right.
from like the logical to the philosophical, blah
and
blah
the
blah.
environmental. economic.
It's just not working out that well.
Interesting, because yeah, what if they had cremated Jesus before he was resurrected? Would have changed the whole religion.
There would be no Christianity.
There'd be no Easter, that's for darn tootin'.
Yeah.
So Christianity.
Trying to
Wednesday
cancel Easter over here.
would be really different.
Main takeaway here: Christianity and also Orthodox Judaism, body and soul are very tightly connected,
Bound
So
together.
That's our main takeaway here. So moving on, the pagan Scandinavians favored cremation, believing that it helped free the spirit from the flesh and that it also kept the dead from harming the living.
I like that.
Which we'll
no
kind of
zombies.
get back to.
That's
Right?
Taking
true.
the zombie risk.
These pagans' practices paralleled the Greek and Roman epic cremations. After the Icelandic conversion to Christianity around 1000 CE, cremation was rare in Western Europe until the 19th century, except in emergencies. We'll get back to this.
Yeah, I want to
During-
know what those emergencies could be.
Well, here we go. During an outbreak of the Black Death in 1656, for example, the bodies of 60,000 victims were burned in Naples during a single week.
Whoa.
They had so many fucking corpses and they were riddled with disease. They had to burn them.
Yeah.
They didn't literally
again,
didn't have enough people to bury them.
Yes, and also we'll kind of get back to the miasma theory, which was a
Bad air.
little bit about this time, but I
Okay.
think at this point it's just that they did not have enough room or time
Sure.
to bury them. And maybe they were connecting the dots of like people who buried these diseased people were getting sick. Maybe not sure. During the Middle Ages in parts of Europe, cremation was forbidden by law and even punishable by death if combined with heathen rites. So this was still like a very religiously
Controlled thing.
exclusion. Yes. Cremation was sometimes used by Catholic authorities as part of punishment for accused heretics, which included burning at the stake. So when we think about like the not the Salem witch trials, of course, because no witches were burned in North America
They
at
were
that time.
hanged.
But in Europe, a lot of them were burned at the at the request of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
In the mid-1800s in the West, many people were beginning to believe in the miasma theory, or as we said, or the bad air or night air, that it was responsible for the spread of disease, that rotting organic matter contributed to epidemics. So they're like they're kind of catching on to
Yeah.
I feel
how
They're connecting
diseases
some dots.
spread.
I know.
We're
I
connecting
feel
some
like
dots here.
yeah. We talk about how this is like so different from germ theory, but like, is it though? Like,
No, it's not.
It's
Yeah,
It's they're on.
It's a
on
base.
Same track.
It's a basic, really fundamental, unscientific understanding of how diseases spread.
Right.
Right.
Some
And, like,
communicable
congrats,
diseases
you
are
finally
spread through
caught
the
on.
air. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly. Like COVID.
The bad death and like this decaying organic. Like if you hang out with a dead body
yeah,
that
you
had
probably don't-
died from XYZ, you might get XYZ.
Mhm.
Yeah, you probably don't want to drink corpse water.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So this movement, along with new furnace technology and contact with Eastern cultures and secularism, really pushed for the return of cremation in the West. This is during the mid-1800s. Sir Charles William Siemens had
LOL.
developed his regenerative furnace in the 1850s, which operated at a high temperature by using regenerative preheating of fuel and air for combustion. Science, blah, blah, blah. Basically, his furnace
Chemistry
was
occurs.
chemistry occurs. Basically, his furnace was able to reach very high temperatures and allowed for efficient and practical cremation.
Cool.
So before then, it took a shitload of firewood,
Right.
a shitload of time, a shitload of attention. People were just like,
They figured out how to like build a kiln,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
do
Well,
it effectively
And in the
efficiently.
1850s, they had built kilns and furnaces for other types of production, like for
Right.
like smelting lead and whatever. So
yeah.
they did.
So his furnace actually was originally, I believe, meant to melt steel.
Mhm.
Okay, so they
So
had
is
the
it-
technology, they augmented it to fit this purpose, it sounds like.
Mhm.
I think he
Or
was
similar
probably just
technology.
trying to create a furnace to get as high of heats, whether it was like melting steel or
Mhm. Or bodies.
whatever. Yeah, it just happened to be also really
high
great
heat
for,
can be very useful for a number of purposes.
for a number of purposes. Okay, so I don't want to gloss over this by any means, but I also I don't want to get too into it because it's so lengthy. But in some countries, including India and Nepal, cremation in an open-air pyre is an ancient tradition. So they've been doing this shit this whole time.
Forever, yeah.
Mhm.
So in general, it is the wish of all devout Hindus to be incinerated in a town called Varanasi.
Mm.
So Varanasi is like one of the main like cities that are really important to Hinduism. So the waterfront of that holy city is lined with concrete and marble slabs on which pyres are erected. So like there's a lot of, I don't know if funeral is the right word, but like death rituals. A lot of death rituals take place on the shores of the specific river in the specific town. The remains are then deposited into the Ganges River. In some Asiatic countries, cremation is available to only a favored few. So, for example, in Tibet, it is usually reserved for the high lamas.
Oh.
In Laos, it is for those who die, quote unquote, fortunately, i.e., of natural causes at the end of a peaceful and prosperous life. So,
That's interesting that it's like stratified like that. Wow.
yeah. So the way that your body upon death is disposed of or like, processed has a lot to do with it's supposed to be a reflection of how you lived your life. So
Interesting.
the way like the way that your funeral kind of pans out is extremely important to you as your like history as like a living person.
Sure. Huh.
Okay, so to no one's surprise at the NSA, I also Googled how to cremate a body.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we've
Most importantly.
Your NSA agent is like, oh, she's probably writing her notes.
At it again.
I'm sure I have like a person posted to my like shit to be like, oh yeah, this bitch again. So we've touched on a lot of these things before, but I will repeat some of the important parts because it's exciting and interesting. So first of all, God bless Caitlin Doty and her Ask a Mortician YouTube page. I love this bitch. I've read her books. She's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any questions about cremation in particular, because she started her career like in a crematory and it's so fucking fascinating. But look her up, Caitlin Doty, Doughty. Doty.
You gave me her book.
Yeah, I did. So good. Okay, so this is from one of her YouTube videos. So a lot of crematories require a body to be in a container when they're put into the oven, just so the operator doesn't have to like handle like sliding a body into the oven. So usually these containers are like a cheap pine or a cardboard box, just like something, cheap gift box. So before they put them in, they remove pacemakers, jewelry, or any artificial parts like a fake leg or something, because of course it's gonna melt. Pacemakers will explode, and they're very dangerous.
Not a lot of dental orthodonture, and we will get to it.
And you'll get to it.
Oh, I will also get to it. I love that you interjected with that. Okay, so they will then put a little metal circular tag, like a pet ID tag, like a little dog collar thing, in with the body, just so they can make sure that they give you the right
ashes.
remains. Yeah. Okay, so we start in the primary chamber. This is like the big oven, the big pizza oven. So this heats up to between 1,800 and 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know we've talked about before how hot it takes to actually like burn body material.
Right.
It has to get really
this at home.
No.
It has to get really fucking hot. And also, if you're planning on like disposing of a body in your backyard, like in your fire pit, it's not going to get that hot.
It's not going to work.
No.
You
Can't
have to
rely
get it
on fire. You got to rely on water.
Well, this is the reason why it took until the mid 1800s for somebody to develop a furnace hot enough to retain this high of heat for this long of time, because it takes
effective.
It takes at least an hour, 2 hours, maybe more at these high of heats of temperatures to actually break down the body. So if you think you're going to get rid of a body like in your backyard, dream on,
Stephen
Buster.
Avery.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. Leave Steven out of this. Don't want to get into Steven.
Don't email us.
Okay, so the primary chamber, this is where the body goes. Soft tissues incinerate and vaporize, reducing the body to brittle bones and ash. This takes 1 to 2 hours, as I said. And I'll give us now a breakdown of like 10-minute intervals. What happens? So in the first 10 minutes, the muscles, bones, and fat begin to char, sizzle, and shrink. If the body hasn't had a lot of time to decompose very much, then there might still be... I think it might be the lactic acid. Don't take my word on that. But like if your body hasn't had that much time to decompose and go through that like rigor mortis process, then your limbs might contract, your hands might ball into fists, your body might hunch forward, like your head might go down. Like you might just kind of ball up. And so as Caitlin addresses, I think there's a rumor that they like sit up inside the oven. They don't sit up. They just kind of ball forward.
Got it.
Don't like it.
No, nobody sits up. Don't worry about it.
Do not like that.
Well, don't worry because it's not a thing.
Good, because I don't like it.
I don't like that. Around 20 minutes, soft tissue has been burned off around the face and the skull. Your cheeks might remain just because your cheeks are the fattest part of your face.
My cheeks would remain.
Your cheeks would remain. I feel like your forehead might remain.
My
too.
forehead's not
your
going
eyebrows
anywhere.
would remain.
Yeah.
So your ribs are beginning to show, and also my favorite part, jets of liquid might begin to spray from your abdomen area.
Good God.
From tears in the cavity as the abdominal organs dehydrate and the liquids are aggressively evaporating. So like your innards are so hot that all your liquids they're steaming. They're going to shoot out.
Yeah.
I don't know that I was prepared for this. And
no, I was not.
I
know
have
that I
been.
was not prepared.
because I know you and I know the topic. And so
You weren't
And
prepared.
I want to be cremated, but this is like alarming.
Well, it gets worse. So if you got to
Great.
tune out, go now. Okay. So after 30 minutes, the skull cap.
She's getting too much joy out of this.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting.
the skull
Joy, it's
cap.
just
She
the
said
top of
with
your
glee.
skull, the skull cap, is beginning to come apart and loosen from the rest of your skull. So boiling liquid is sort of leaking out. You got a lot of juices in your head, honestly. You got all your sinuses, your eyeballs, everything in your ears, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of leaking out. Most bones in the rest of your body are beginning to show, and your ribs are beginning to bend inward and outward. So, like,
I don't love the use of the your.
Yeah, it's close to home when you're describing the body as though it could be either mine or Kenyon's.
Could it just be
The?
if that makes you feel better,
It does.
If that makes the feel better, I can accommodate the.
Can confirm it does make the feel better.
Okay, so
Amanda.
the ribs are bending inward and outward. They're kind of curling up, and your arms and your legs are the arms and legs are mostly free of soft tissue. After 40 minutes, the skull cap is completely removed. Shot clear off, and the brain is blackened and spongy. Abdominal organs are exposed, shrunken, blackened, again, sponge-like because, of course, all of the moisture is taking out of them. So
Of course.
It's just the tissue of those organs. It's spongy, you know. The ribs are super curly now. Ribs are all fucked up. The hands and the lower arms are basically gone. After 50 minutes, the thighs are basically stumps. Your arms are mostly gone. The spinal column is basically separated and sort of coming apart. After 60 plus minutes, everything is pretty much ash and bone fragment by now, but like it's kind of taking care of the rest of it. Depends on the size of the body.
So it really is. It's like a chicken breast when you're cooking a chicken breast, and like the thinner parts can get burnt while the inner part is, still raw, and like that. Then the fattest parts go last.
Yeah, it's logical. Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. Your cheeks will go last. The cheeks will go last. So the gases and particulates go into a secondary chamber where they are subjected to temperatures of around 1700 degrees Fahrenheit, where they like chill out, like settle down to reduce odor and smoke and emissions before they are released into the atmosphere, like up the chimney. So thank you, secondary chamber, for not exposing everybody in the neighborhood to like
all
the
that
smells
gas.
and emissions of all this,
And all that
all this
gas.
gas. You are not ready for that particular jelly.
No.
After the process is finished, the bones and ash are allowed to cool before they are swept into basically a big cookie tray. Cremation leaves behind an average of 5.3 pounds, which is 2.4 kilograms, of remains known as ashes or cremains, as we covered, I feel it, earlier. A big old magnet is run over the cremains to pick up any metal that have made it through the process. So like fillings or like, I don't know.
The
a clit
pins and
piercing.
needles put into your bones if you
Yeah,
break a
your
bone and you get
weird
the...
knee needles,
Yeah.
pins, whatever, stuff like that.
Sure. Okay.
Then the cremains are dumped into what's called a cremulator. It's like a big Vitamix to grind up it into more of a recognizable ash substance and to get rid of any large chunks. I have a picture of a cremulator on the drive. Yes. Well, it's a blender, but I don't know if it's like a masher. I think it mashes, but whatever. It's the same thing. Okay, moving on. There's been a rise in cremation in the West over the past few decades, due in part to several factors, including
people not hearing this segment yet.
Like,
reduced.
I'm not okay.
No, you're fine. You're dead already. I mean, at this point, who cares?
When I'm dead, I don't care. But that was very alarming.
Yeah.
Like, especially because, like, my dad was cremated.
Yeah, we've all had loved ones cremated.
So now it's like, I could picture that process happening.
It felt like they were alive.
I know.
Was this too disturbing for you? Should I have issued a trigger warning?
Not too disturbing. It's just, I never put much thought into the actual process, and it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, it makes
Are
sense.
you okay?
No.
Are you okay, though?
But, like, not different from any other time I'm not okay. I'm just not, I'm just not okay in general. I'm
just
fine.
not great.
Great.
Should I feel bad about this?
No.
Oh, no.
You're doing your job. It's just, for some reason,
that was weird. It was ishy.
It was intense.
Yeah, it was intense. It was intense.
Okay.
It's not your fault. You just described the process of cremation. I would have gotten as weirded out reading that on Wikipedia. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're good. I'm shook. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I apologize if I've disturbed you because I think everybody
first of all,
listening,
what else is new?
Probably everybody listening has had a loved one cremated at
for
this
sure.
point. So
I have Jessica's ashes right over there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
got ashes all over my house. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
oh my God, my sex dream about Niles Crane was not a joke. Not a joke.
Lucy texted us this morning all about her sex dream with Niles Crane.
It wasn't really a sex dream. It was just like we made out passionately. And then I was like, I have to go catch my flight. And he was like, I'll talk to you later. And I was like, nope, bye. But it was it was a really hot makeout sesh with Niles Crane.
Get it?
Hey, I mean, why not?
Times are weird, people.
His love story with Daphne was like the thing that carried that show. So
don't talk to me about Daphne. Okay, I just have a little bit more to get through. Okay, so rise in cremation. Here are a couple factors. Number one, reduced religious affiliation. So less than 40% of Americans today choose a religious funeral. Another one could be growing environmental awareness. Many opt for cremation to reduce land usage, preserve natural resources like hardwood, and avoid chemicals associated with the embalming process. God bless. That would be my personal biggest factor. Well,
I'm very torn
among the biggest.
because I like the idea of scattering ashes, but the cremation process is quite alarming.
Mm-hmm.
You're
And
dead
then-
anyway.
I know, but then I also, with caring about history and genealogy, I feel like having a gravestone is important.
You can have that with
You can
cremation.
still have a gravestone with cremation.
Yeah, my dad,
Yeah.
grandma, and grandpa are all in a plot
Mhm.
Right.
with a really nice gravestone. They just all fit better because they're in little jars. Because their skull cap blasted off.
And they're so big.
It's really just sped up decomposition, honestly. Like, if you really want to think about it, research decomposition.
I don't
That's
want
fucking way gnarlier than
And I know it's a
cremation, I
myth,
think.
but it set me up for the fear with the shriveling and sitting up in the kiln. It was a lot.
No, not sitting up, just punching forward.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that distinction.
Embalming really grosses me out too. Like, I think what I would really prefer
it's
is like a pine, like just like a shitty pine box, not like an actual coffin, just like the cheapest possible thing, and no embalming, and like,
Oh, the little
dump her
pod
in the
where they,
ground.
like plant a tree in you.
yeah.
I
the
want
most
to do.
natural process.
I want to do that thing that they just legalized in, I believe, Washington State, where they just put you in like a hot little box, and they just like, you're just like a biodegradable. You're
Yeah,
just like,
that would be cool. The
you just,
composting
you're made
one.
you're made into soil.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I would like.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But also, like, none of these options are any less disgusting when you think about them. Like, I'm sorry that I broke down minute by minute the process of cremation on a human body, but like, they're all fucking gross.
You pulled back the veil like a crematorium, pulling back the skin and exposing a skull cap.
Exactly. Sue me. Anyway, last couple things. So another reason why we might choose cremation, it's cheaper. Cremation is less expensive than a burial and still allows families to hold a traditional service. Also, it's more personalized, so you get more choice in storing or scattering the remains, offering meaningful options that better represent the deceased. You can throw it in the ocean over a pot of dolphins, but like, don't do that because dolphins have nothing to do with this. Lastly, you could have more flexible timing. So burials typically require prompt attention,
Yes.
while cremation allows time for the family to gather if, let's say, they're spread out around the country, around the world.
There's
or
a
if
pandemic.
Right.
There's a pandemic, and make final arrangements if the deceased did not pre-plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
lots
basically-
to consider.
Lots of pros, maybe a couple cons, depends on your religion or spiritual affiliation, whatever. I personally am a big proponent of cremation just because of all of those reasons, and also just because, like, I personally feel like when you're dead, you're fucking dead. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, who cares?
Yeah, I don't really care that much, to be honest.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
All
my
right.
segment. I hope that was enlightening and not too disturbing for
It was
you.
as illuminating as a fire hot enough to burn a body.
Oh, 1,700 to 2,000 degrees Celsius.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
Fahrenheit.
My case was selected by our fan picker, and it's a doozy, and I hadn't heard of it before, but
And it filled the first 4 pages of Google when you researched this topic.
yeah.
Did it fill an average of 5.3 pounds?
Okay.
It blasted my skull clear open.
Yeah. Poor Amanda got stuck with a very tough to Google episode. Okay. In the mid 1970s, a respected local businessman named Tommy Ray Marsh opened a crematorium in Noble, Georgia. Noble was and still is a small community in northwest Georgia, just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Ever heard of it?
Given its location, the crematorium served nearby communities in 3 states: Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. Alabama. Hence the company's name, Tri-State Crematory.
Try hard crematory.
Got it.
And according to locals, everyone was glad to have the company in their community. They no longer needed to travel such long distances in order to obtain what one article termed corpse services.
Okay.
So, there you go. Tommy Marsh also owned a few other companies, including rental tents for events.
Why is that so funny?
I know.
He's the crematory king. He's the tent king. What other king is he?
Weddings,
He's the
funerals, graduation.
Graduation.
He's the corpse service king.
Whatever your body is going through, I am the king.
all
Whatever your
of
body is
life's
going
major
through.
events.
I have all open air funeral services covered.
We've got births. We've got baptisms. We've got graduation. We've got weddings.
We got funerals.
We got tents
funerals.
with flaps.
We
We
got
got tents
visitations.
without flaps.
We got funerals.
Well, he also was involved in vault construction.
Like doomsday prepper, like underground vault, or like bank vault,
I don't know.
or like gymnastic vault.
I literally wrote in my notes, bank vaults, question mark? Probably not pole vaults.
Right? There are a lot of vaults.
Vaults. They always seem very severe. I don't like a vault.
Was a man with many vaults.
He contained multitudes.
So
He without vaults cast the first stone.
Marsh had also run to be the county coroner. And while he did lose that race, it was a close one, and it came down to just 100 vote difference. So he was well respected.
Okay.
And as far as we know, for the first 20 or so years of the business, while Tommy was in charge of things, the Tri-State Crematory ran smoothly.
All right, not so bad.
Did what it was supposed to do, as far as we know.
Congrats. So happy for you.
But then, in the mid-1990s, Tommy's health began to decline very seriously, and he was still only in his late 60s.
It was his 60s.
It was his 60s, and he suffered a series of strokes and then later dementia, and was just no longer able to manage the day-to-day operations of the business. Yeah.
I feel like anyone named Tommy shouldn't be dying of old age.
Oh,
Tommy.
Tommy Pickles.
Isn't that like a young boy name?
Sure.
Tommy.
T-Money.
Oh, T-Money.
Big
Remember
T?
So he left the crematory in the, turns out, not at all capable hands of his adult son.
Oh, my adult son. He's going to take over the business. I don't know why this man from Alabama has this, like,
I know.
Brooklyn grandmother accent, but it's my go-to.
The adult son.
My adult son.
By marriage.
By marriage.
So this, as far as I know, was his adult son by birth.
Oh.
And his name is Ray Brent Marsh. So he went by Brent, but whatever. Marsh the younger. So this is when the situation deteriorated.
Decomposes.
Between taking over the reins in 1996 and when the first red flag popped up on law enforcement's radar, Marsh the Younger had already serviced roughly 2,000 bodies, or almost 500 per year.
Okay.
It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I don't think he had any employees.
Business was booming. He was on fire.
I mean,
He ran the business into
was
the ground.
Burning up the competition.
Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. So fuck. Oh my god. So then in
He went down in
October,
a blaze of glory.
stop it. She did go out in a blaze of glory. Blaze of infamy. Amanda's so pleased with herself. I don't know that I've ever seen her make this face.
I just really like how well my puns land when Lucy's had at least 2 White Claws.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She's such a good
at
audience.
least. You're on fire, girl. Your skull cap's blowing.
You're going to
clean
blast
off.
my skull
Yeah.
cap clean off.
Yeah. You're blowing her skull cap. Okay, so but then in October 2000 a propane delivery truck driver
Exploded.
well, He came to make a fuel delivery to the property because it takes a lot of fuel to run the incinerator.
It does. And propane.
And propane accessories.
It does.
So the propane truck driver went to make a delivery to the property, and then later he made a ghastly accusation to law enforcement.
Propane gas.
Sleep.
Yep. He told the oh my God, we're so unprofessional.
Really?
He told the Walker County Sheriff's Department that, quote, on at least 2 occasions, he'd seen bodies strewn about the property when making his propane delivery.
My case is similar to this.
Just
I think someone took notes.
Like around.
Stashed
like
around. She'll get to it.
Alarmed, a deputy sheriff was sent out to poke around.
Oh.
I don't know exactly how much time had elapsed between when the truck driver made the delivery, noticed the bodies, then made his report, and then the officer was sent to the property. So that process could have been a few hours. It could have been a few days, weeks. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But when the deputy sheriff got there, he said that he noticed nothing improper, and then nothing more came of the report.
Okay.
But then, a year later, in November 2001, a regional office of the Environmental Protection Agency in Atlanta received an anonymous tip that human body parts had been discovered in the vicinity of the crematory.
Just around.
This prompted the sheriff's office to yet again conduct a, quote, routine check of the property. But in retrospect, that search could not have been that thorough because yet again they claimed to find nothing unusual. Then, just 3 months later, the EPA in Atlanta received yet another concerning tip. A person out walking their dog in the woods like abutting the property, had chanced upon a human bone. Jackpot.
That dog was like, this is the best day of my
I'm
life.
such a good boy. I'm such a good boy.
I'm a good boy. It's me. I found it.
Josie would be like, she'd like sniff it, lick it once,
No.
walk away.
No.
What's that TikTok video of the dogs like, oh yeah, I'm such a good boy. Oh, I'm such a good boy. I'm such a good boy. Oh yeah.
That
His
is
tail is wet. You know? No one?
No.
Okay.
No, but that sounds very accurate.
That's a dog.
I'll find it. But it's like its tail is wagging to a point of like, oh, I'm such a good boy. I found the bone. Oh, I blocked a stranger.
So that's what's going through the dog's brain. The human's brain is like, what the
Perfect.
fuck? Isn't that the crematorium?
Perfect.
Oh my God. So, do I still pick up the poop? Do I just try to get out of here fast enough?
You know what?
I
I
can't
think
get
if
the
you
bag out
find
of the thing.
like a shin, like a human shin, you can skip picking up the poop in that
I think
day.
in that one
Just
case.
that one time.
Yeah.
That's
But
when it's
also,
okay.
like, there's no rush at that point.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Don't worry about it.
So,
Oh, you mean no rush on like
Yeah,
the
no, there's
bone.
no rush to call the cops. It's like, oh, they're already dead. They're already dead. Like,
well, we
know.
will get to it. So this
okay.
time, EPA agents decided to conduct their own investigation of the wooded area where the tip originated because this is the second time the EPA has gotten a tip. And the first time they sent it to the cops said they found nothing. Now the EPA is like, okay, we're going to fucking look into this ourselves.
Yeah, you got just bones around.
Yeah, what the fuck? So they send their own agents to the wooded area next to the crematorium. When they arrived on the scene, they discovered a human skull and additional human bones
Of course they
scattered
did.
nearby.
oh, okay.
So at this point, the police were called back and their feet were held to the fire.
Oh. Shorty
Only-
fire burning on the dance
Only
floor.
effective if it's like 1800 degrees Celsius.
Fahrenheit. Okay. On February 15th, 2002, police returned to the Tri-State Crematory. This time, what they found would be more fitting for a horror movie than a family-run business in a sleepy rural community.
The rural juror.
Investigators discovered piles of human corpses. Literal piles. All in various stages of decomposition, littered around the property.
Yep.
The remains were both indoors and outdoors. There was no, rhyme or reason to where they'd been placed.
Just strewn.
Some were in a storage shed. Some were in various vaults.
Because
really
he's a vault
fucked.
maker.
Through
He
no
made his own vaults.
Of anyone's. Yeah.
He made his own vault, but also never put anyone in that vault.
It doesn't sound like they were, locked. It was just this is a
He
place.
did store corpses in the vaults.
Yeah.
So he did put people in there.
This is
No, I know.
really
So here is a very dark quote from wickedhorror.com.
Oh, my most
Classic.
favorite publication.
I mean,
my
if you can't
homepage.
It's wicked
trust
good.
Wicked Horror.
It's wicked good.
It's wicked.
It's just a very good quote. So, okay. Quote, coffins were haphazardly stacked in rooms, corpses lying in boxes that were disorganized with their fluids leaking onto the floor. Some were in their Sunday best, while others were still in hospital gowns.
Oh, so some were actually maybe already had their visitation or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That might be the worst part about
And
this.
others were new to the facility and still awaiting preparation.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh.
There was one body lying halfway inside the crematory oven, another lying inside a coffin.
What?
Yet another draped across a wooden crate with the skeleton of a baby at its feet.
No. 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 No.
Just imagine the most disorganized, that house with the mannequins, but they're corpses.
Oh my, no. I don't.
Scattered.
This is really, it's gross, but it's mostly just really fucking sad.
Yeah.
This is really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
I mean, from your mouth to our fucking podcast reviews.
Well,
Mostly
me,
gross, but
I
mostly sad.
Yeah.
I have very little capacity for
Yeah.
Human emotion.
Human emotion.
Got it.
I guess. But just the nostalgia, the ritual of that. But this is sad. This is really.
Well, all of these
It's
people
awful.
are waiting for the remains of their loved ones in a lot of cases too.
Yeah, it's just all
Yeah.
sorts of. It's also it's everybody just kind of crammed into one.
A lot of disrespect of corpses happening.
Dang.
Complete disrespect.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang.
Just
Yeah.
discarded, treated like, spare car parts strewn
Right.
around like a,
Ugh.
backwoods property.
Oh, that is sad.
This is rough. This is
So-
a rough one.
In total,
Welcome back, Kenyon.
There
This
she
is a rough
is.
one.
Where you been, girl?
back to my roots, just like my actual hair that so desperately needs to be dyed.
Yeah, your hair looks dark. I love it.
In total, 339 uncremated bodies were discovered on the property that day.
Good God.
And you said in various states of decomp too.
Some were skeletons, some were more fresh.
Oh my word.
339.
That's
Yep.
a
Oh
lot.
Oh my God.
It's a
And
lot.
That means whatever he's been doing, he's also been doing it for a minute.
Well,
Yeah.
he's been solely in charge of this crematory for 6 years.
Okay. And like you said, they had been going through bodies real quick.
Yeah.
His numbers on
500
paper,
a year.
pretty good.
Yeah. So
were his numbers skewed, or was he just like...
No, that's how many bodies had been sent to him in those years.
But that wasn't the number that were like...
Found.
Processed is not the right
Right.
word.
No, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, 2,000 minus 339.
That's too
That's how many had presumably been cremated. I don't think he had buried any of them.
Yeah.
But 339 uncremated bodies were found that day. Later, 226 of those 339 would be successfully identified using DNA testing.
That's it?
Mm-hmm. But the rest remain to this day unidentified. So over 100 were unidentified. They knew that they were from that potential pool of 2,000 bodies that had been sent.
Oh my God, these poor people.
But they don't know. And then this is usually the case for individuals that maybe didn't have any living relatives that they were able to like contact to test against.
So no one's going to claim them.
They don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
According
heartbreaking.
to my math, that's 113.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even if that's not the right number.
And even the people that were
people.
given the remains supposedly of their loved ones, they don't know
if they actually
whose remains those are. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So lots of victims, lots and lots of victims. So still identifying the remains was only one part of the immense effort that went into processing such a vast and convoluted crime scene.
Yeah.
Because first they had to make sure that, he wasn't like a serial killer.
Right.
Hiding.
What a perfect cover that could be.
Right. And I don't think that was ever seriously entertained, but they still have to do some due diligence.
I want to
rule
see
it out.
That movie.
Mm-hmm.
The serial killer who is a funeral home director with an on-site crematory.
I'm sure that movie has been made.
I'm Googling
a lot.
it.
So, it's just a really wild crime scene. So a federal disaster relief team had to be called in to help because it was akin to like a mass grave or like a mass death event.
With like varying levels of decomposition too.
Right. And then a portable morgue was sent in from Maryland to properly store the remains during the interim during the investigation. Because they couldn't just leave them where they were, strewn around, so disrespected. So then they had to bring in another morgue and like a big ass fucking morgue.
Yeah.
For 339 bodies.
Hundreds of bodies, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big shit show effort. Unsurprisingly, Ray Brent Marsh was arrested on the spot when they got there. He would be charged with 787 counts of criminal activity, including abusing a corpse, fraud relating to promised burial services, theft by deception, fraud, and false statements.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it was really difficult for prosecutors to even be able to like determine how many counts was appropriate to like give him.
Right.
Because there were so many. And like just the scale of it all.
And that's just what they found there. Like who knows if he was getting creative with other means of disposal.
Dumping sites.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how could this happen, you ask? So many crematoriums are subject to annual state inspections in order to maintain their operating license.
Which
and
makes
they should
sense.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But due to a loophole in Georgia state law at the time that I'm assuming has been rectified since, but I don't know, because the Tri-State Crematory only dealt directly with funeral homes and not with the public.
Yeah.
So like an individual family wouldn't go to them.
Yep.
The family would go to the funeral home and then the funeral home would subcontract out the cremation
Yep.
and only the cremation.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, this meant that there was a loophole and they didn't need a license in order to operate and therefore they didn't have to be inspected.
Wowie, wowie, wee.
That's
Wowee, wah, as Borat would say.
Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, the families were given concrete dust instead of their loved ones' ashes.
What?
So like later a victim's family member, like they had the remains tested that they were given, and it was determined that they were like not human ashes at all. It was concrete dust.
That is horrifying.
And I think some people were given human ashes, but again, you can't determine that. At that point, you have no way to determine whose fucking ashes they were.
Right.
Well, if they're operating in a way that you can't tell the difference between concrete dust and ashes, then who the fuck knows what you're getting?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could be a mix of both. Who knows? Could depend on when, maybe in the beginning he was cremating people and by the end he'd lost it. We don't know.
That's really fucked.
So initially...
I'm listening. I just have to take a toy away from Albus because he's being really loud.
Okay. So initially, Brent tried to blame the equipment, claiming that the crematory's oven, also known as a retort...
Duh.
For those in the know.
Throwback.
So he tried to claim that the crematory's oven had broken and that he'd essentially gotten behind in his work and that the bodies began to pile up.
No.
400 bodies almost behind.
Yeah, but also, like...
No.
So then you say, I'm sorry, I can't take on anymore. My oven is broken. I need to get it fixed.
Right.
Like a responsible fucking business owner.
God.
But this claim didn't stand up to scrutiny on a number of levels. The incinerator was tested, and, well, they did find, like, some shit was wrong with it. It was still in working order.
Yeah.
So, like, it could have been, it wasn't in tip-top shape, but it was working. Also, when other crematory operators were interviewed, they noted that even if the oven had completely broken down or malfunctioned, quote, most manufacturers have regular maintenance programs available. And also, like, it's a fucking business. Maintain your equipment.
Yeah. That's like the bare minimum.
Yeah. If your
What are you
truck
doing?
breaks down, you gotta fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be morbid, but also, like, I would think that the equipment in a crematorium or / a funeral home would sort of operate the same way as, like, a restaurant. Like, it can't break down. If something breaks down, like, you get an operator back out to, like, fucking fix it
Immediately.
soon. Like,
Yeah.
immediately.
You can't operate with it broken down.
Right.
Quote, unquote.
It's not like
Yeah.
a McDonald's shake machine.
Right.
It can be broken for 2 months at a time.
Right. It's like,
You
this
hear
is-
me, McDonald's. But, like, they're always
The
fucking
fuck
broken
your
down.
soft serve machine is broken.
But, like, when
The
it comes
fuck
to
it is.
like a
Yeah.
restaurant,
Right.
like, there are things
Right.
that, like, there are people on call.
They're vital.
24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this led many to assume that Ray Brent Marsh might have just been, quote, lazy, and that's why he'd failed to cremate the bodies. But this, too, is confusing because, people pointed out, like, the amount of effort that it takes to drag a body around the property and, like,
It's
dump it
way
in various
more-
places
yeah. Then, yep.
is more effort than
Yes.
wheeling a body to the oven to be cremated.
Yeah.
And then sliding her in.
Right?
Yeah, no. No. No.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
So something else.
Yeah, there's
What's
something going
going
on
on?
upstairs. It's
And
like
it's
a
not-
weird hoarders situation,
Yes.
but with
And it's not
bods.
like my case that I did for the drunk dive, which was a great drunk dive, by the way, one of the early ones. But where they were like selling body parts or whatever, they had like a financial interest in not cremating people. This
Right.
guy,
Weren't they like selling them for like medical research and stuff,
Yeah.
unregulated, and they were raking?
this guy wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So, like-
there's no profit to be made.
No.
Well, okay.
The only profit to be made is that he was probably taking on more bodies than he reasonably could process.
I suppose. Because my guy
But then
My
then
guy
at that
kind of does
point,
this, but he's
you invest in another oven. You
Right.
you get
Yeah.
employees. You stop taking on.
if your business is cremation and you only have enough cremators or crematoriums to process a set number of bodies, and like,
That's
what are you
fixed.
doing?
Yeah.
You're stockpiling your inventory.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you gonna do with it?
Right.
That doesn't make sense if you don't have the ovens. If you don't have the.
Right.
This is such a sick way to think of it, but like actually,
But
yeah,
yeah.
This is
So-
not a solid business model.
it's not.
So
It's not.
It's not.
even Marsh himself couldn't explain his own behavior. Pleading guilty in court, Marsh stated, quote, "To those of you who may have come here today for answers, I cannot give you."
You know what I
Duh.
feel like it is?
You know what? You cannot give me.
I know. You can't even give me a proper sentence.
This guy, this is obviously, there's a mental health situation going on here, clearly. But the one thing that I'm going to relate to this man for just one moment.
Like major depression, maybe,
Yes,
where he
it's
just
I can't, and then it's mounting up, and it makes it so much worse.
shame.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think it just spiraled out of control way faster than he ever anticipated it would. And like,
I get it.
maybe the
I get
furnace,
it,
maybe
but,
the furnace
like-
did break, and he was kind of in dire straits and couldn't get it repaired as quickly as he wanted. But he didn't want to halt business because the only way to afford to get it repaired was to continue to accept cremations,
Right.
cremation services. And then it's one of those like, just
Hide-
one more body and I'm going to get it
Yeah.
fixed, and then it's going
Right.
to be okay, and I'll
It's
get
like
caught
a
up.
gambler. It's a gambler.
Yes.
Just one
Yes.
more. Just one more. Just one more.
And it
I'll
just kept
win it back.
escalating. I feel like that has to be somewhere along
Yeah.
the line of like how this got so out of control.
And there might be some guilt too, because like he took on the business from his dad, and while
Yes.
his dad was running it, it was working well, and now he's
they're
in
known
charge.
in the community. They'd been like such a godsend to this area.
And his dad is really, really sick and suffering from dementia, and like, that is. I mean,
Like I don't feel it's fucked
I
up.
think we.
I don't think we
can
know
get it.
enough. I don't think we
We
know
can-
enough about.
Right.
Yeah,
Ray
we
Brent
can get
Marsh.
it. We can get it. We can feel empathy, but that does not mean
It
that
doesn't absolve.
It does not absolve his fucking part in this whole thing, because
Right.
it's still really fucking fucked up.
And
Yeah,
really
and also
sad.
we're speculating. It could
We
be
are.
We're
that
also-
he
yes.
didn't give a shit and was so
Yeah.
It could be that.
So let's not let him off the hook that easily.
I'm not letting him off the hook. I'm just sad at
it's
the
still
prospect of
fucked.
how that
Yeah.
could have happened.
Yeah.
I just made myself
We can be
sad.
empathetic, but we can still hold
We've
him
all
accountable.
gotten behind in our work.
Yeah, I just get how he feels. I get it.
Yeah.
I feel it deeply.
If Marsh hadn't agreed to the plea deal, he would have faced thousands of years in prison because, it's
Yeah,
like a
all the
lifetime
counts of-
sentence for each victim. And
Yes, every defilement of a corpse or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just
it adds up.
That's a lot of charges. Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead, he pled out and he was sentenced to 12.
12 years.
So 12 life sentences.
12 years.
Yeah, no, 12 years. That's it.
Wow.
Which again, almost no, but it was a plea deal, so he didn't have to have like his mental health assessed to go to court because he
Well-
never had to.
We will get to the
Okay.
assessments, but it was after the plea deal.
So yeah, for the deal,
Mm-hmm.
his mental health did not come into play. It was just to take this. It's the okay, because like I could get the 12 years, the
Mm-hmm.
leniency of the sentence if a mental health assessment happened first, and
I
they were
feel,
like,
no matter what.
it's not great. Nothing. None of this is great.
No.
Nobody wins here.
So during that time, while he's serving his sentence in 2007, his defense attorneys, one of whom is literally named, and you will not believe this, McCracken Poston.
What?
He goes by Ken.
Well, of
you
course
think-
he does.
And you
course.
think,
'Cause he
okay,
doesn't want to be bullied
Kenneth.
every day.
maybe Kendall, maybe Kenyon. Nope. McCracken.
McCracken. McCracken.
Is he an octopus?
Release the McCracken.
No, he's like a grown-up preppy. Go on the drive and look at McCracken. McCracken Poston. He's the attorney.
He only wears Vineyard Vines belts. Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah,
He's
he was
McCracking
also
me
a
up.
state politician.
Ooh.
Anyway,
Oh, no.
After
McCracken. No.
so
You're wearing promotional sunglasses.
Those were shot at you in a t-shirt cannon, sir.
Yes. You caught
in
those.
Panama.
You
Yeah.
caught those at a
On a
city
cruise ship.
baseball game.
Yes.
Like a regional baseball game.
Yeah.
Ew.
So he's one of the defense attorneys. Unleash the McCracken.
Ish.
And
That's on his billboard.
trademark.
That's what- you get a freebie. McCracken. You can have that one.
Ish.
Anything else I'm invoicing?
So
His cheeks would remain after 20 minutes in a
Aw.
crematorium.
I mean, same.
He's got thick cheeks. He's got a lot of cheeks.
he looks happy.
Oh my God. Speaking of cheeks, on a recent episode of Affirmative Murder, one of the hosts, Alvin, just kept referring to old people like lovemaking in the old folks' home as slapping cheeks. And it was upsetting me so much. I was getting so upset that I had to like stop my car so I could pull over and text him and be like, you need to stop saying slapping
Alvin.
cheeks.
I like
can't
that.
handle
Alvin,
this.
keep it up.
No.
Ish.
Well, all I did by complaining to him was compel him to do it more.
Yeah,
so
of course.
you're welcome.
So, okay. So McCracken presented additional evidence attesting to Marsh's diminished capacity. Basically, they conducted physiological testing and that indicated that Marsh was a victim of mercury toxicity, aka
Mad Hatter.
erethism or Mad Hatter's disease.
Yeah.
S-Town.
Fucking S-Town. Oh, this makes so much more sense. I knew something wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So-
Wasn't right.
Gee, what a Shyamalan Mo.
Ooh, this is a
Mo for
Shamo.
moment.
Shamo.
Yes.
So, Mad Hatter's disease, a neurological disorder, is so called after the phenomenon of historical hat makers in England being exposed to high levels of mercury used during processing wool.
Yeah.
Wait. On the drive, I have a picture of a woolen, what's it called? Woolen envelopes. And it's for cremation purposes. So this advertisement was from like 1889.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
For cremation, woolen envelopes to wrap up the body to secure pure bone ashes. No wood coffin should be burned with the body. The process is painfully prolonged. If it is, and the residuum instead of pure bone ash is a mixture of charcoal, nails, screws, and ashes.
Wow.
So basically, these woolen envelopes, it's not
It's like
clear
a
to
sleeping
me.
bag.
It's not clear to me whether these are like a woolen sleeping bag for the body as it goes into the oven or if it's to collect the ashes afterwards.
It
but
sounds like from
Sounds
the
like the
advertisement
body.
that it goes in with the body and burns away, so you're getting the majority of just ashes of your loved one and not any of the parts that would construct the wooden box that wouldn't burn away.
yeah.
Because they talk
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
nails
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's what they wrap them in when they.
So the
Yeah.
woolen envelopes, baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Get
I
you
did
some woolen envelopes.
That's a great point. I didn't even know about the woolen envelopes, but
I
that
didn't
makes
bring it
sense.
up during my part, but
Well,
I
here
saw that
we
part
are.
and I dropped it on the drive. So there
Mad
we
Hatter,
are.
woolen envelopes, it all
Well,
circles back.
So, but
Sorry.
no, it's great. The lawyers attributed the mercury not to woolen envelopes, but to human remains that contain mercury dental amalgam.
Yup.
Yeah.
Mercury was definitely used in like medical grade shit before we had any clue
That
how
it's
dangerous
so
that could
toxic.
potentially be. Yeah.
So
And as we learned from Poison Crimes, depending on the method of ingestion.
Right, if it's
depending on
solid.
the toxicity.
Versus
Like you can swallow liquid
Vapor.
mercury and be
Yes.
like, okay, but like if it's a vapor or if it's absorbed into the skin,
Yes.
different story.
OMG.
They argued that the process of cremation, which can involve, which involves heating until the mercury is released as a vapor, and then they argued that a, quote, faulty ventilation system exposed both Marsh and his father to toxic levels of mercury.
The father
and
with dementia!
Yeah, the strokes and the dementia!
Oh my God.
OMG.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
I don't know why we're making, for those who are not
Go
watching
Muskies!
the video, we're making like a fish face.
Oh,
I just
my
noticed
God.
Lucy doing it and I just got on board without question.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That is-
Sign up for Patreon at any level to see this video.
That
It's
is
awful.
shocking.
Right? It's a
This has
shamo.
been the most shocking
shamo.
fucking episode. I have been thoroughly shook during both of your fucking segments today. Can we just wrap this up? I clearly cannot handle this.
I'm shamoed. I'm thoroughly shamoed.
So, we've had 2 shamos in your seg.
So anyway, okay, I'm not going to
If you give me another fucking shamo, I am walking off set.
No, I don't have any more shamos, but I can't get into all of it, but like that was just the criminal trial. Then there was a ton of civil litigation. It's America, so like everybody is obviously going to sue for damages.
Everyone's a lawyer.
There was a class action lawsuit with 1,700 family members of victims. There were various settlement amounts. Negotiations, broke down and were agreed to. Then there was a second civil trial. At some point, like, his homeowner's insurance covered some of the damages to victims.
Is he doing the business out of his, because people who like I guess he doesn't run a funeral home though. Because there are people who like live on the premises of their,
Yeah, the family
It's not a
lived
funeral home. It's like
it's a crematory.
the business and the family's home property were the same property.
So yeah, that's how.
Yeah. So, but I just can't. I mean, insurance
This makes me
companies
want
are.
to double check my policy to make sure.
I know.
I
apparently.
want this kind of coverage.
Yeah.
Do you hear me, travelers?
They're like, we don't cover floods, but if you improperly
If you
dispose of
hoard
339 bodies.
in your dual home / crematorium, we got you covered.
Yeah.
There's a policy for that.
So the insurance company paid out, I think, a total of
policy for that.
$18 million to victims'
Wow.
families. Which, like, thank goodness, because it's not like this guy had the money to pay out
There's
millions
no
to
way.
victims. So that's actually good that, they got some compensation. But
Shitload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so all the buildings on the Marsh property were razed. Obviously, the land was
Raised
given
as in raised.
Flattened.
as it flattened.
Yep.
Bye-bye. The land was given over in trust as a conservation easement and a supposed memorial site, although the general public doesn't have access to the land. So I don't really understand that. And then the
But
county...
wouldn't that be what the easement is for? The conservation easement?
It was a little confusing because the family still retains the title to the land.
Right, but
Does-
usually you can arrange an easement that expands access to the land or like makes a portion of that land usable to the public.
I know, but I'm saying that public doesn't have access.
Oh, weird. Then
I don't
get the
know what
point
an
of the
easement means.
I don't
guess.
know. But I think basically they were saying like there can never be another fucking crematory on this site.
I thought an easement was like a slow relinquishing to the government.
And
I'm sure it
maybe
has
that's what
multiple
Okay,
uses.
whatever. Doesn't matter.
But I have heard of like easement agreements in your property where it's like, say you live on a lake and that's private property, but you would be like blocking access to like a semi-public beach or like a neighborhood beach. Then there's like an easement on your property that allows people to walk through a certain portion of your property to like go to the beach or launch your boat or like whatever.
So it might be a partial agreement to the publication, like public access of some.
But she's saying
there's something going on where
something
like
doesn't add up.
it just can't be used for other commercial purposes, I think.
All right. Well, there's no way to know.
Literally.
The county was on the hook to pay for all kinds of hazardous environmental cleanup. Of the
Mercury.
site. Mercury, dead bodies, tons of digging,
etc.
The case was a huge sensation in the press. It inspired many fictionalized TV retellings, including episodes of Law and Order and CSI Miami. Ray Brent Marsh served out his full 12-year sentence and was released from Central State Prison in Macon, Georgia in June 2016. So he's a free man. Tommy Marsh, the father, passed away in 2003. So he was alive when this story broke. Hopefully he wasn't able to really understand kind of
like what was going on.
What was going on and what his son had done.
And is there even treatment like for this mercury
I don't
madness?
think so. No, I think it does permanent cognitive damage.
It's such an old-timey, like,
It's not a common thing nowadays.
no. I'm sure they would treat it as something that falls under the umbrella of,
God. I mean, you
like,
think about how
something
like
else, but-
not that long ago, kids would like break open thermometers, like the mercury thermometers,
Play
and
with the
like
mercury.
play with. Shit like that. I caught.
So that's how how did this work? My dad's wedding rings have been cursed. There have been like 3 different instances of like his wedding rings being like fucked. And the first one, they were dealing with mercury and he had gloves on, but like a little bead of mercury went down and touched his gold wedding ring. And I think
There was like a reaction.
Mercury with gold. I think it just like blanched it somehow. Like it wasn't poisonous to him, but it like fucked up the
the middle.
gold or whatever.
It's
Mercury
not something
is
to be
fucking
fucked with.
wild. I also remember when I was young, I had a thermometer with mercury in the middle, and it broke in my.
That explains it.
It
get
broke
it now.
in that in our back mudroom. You guys know
Yeah.
where I'm talking about.
The fly.
And it was
We've all
like,
been exposed.
and it was. I don't want to sound like weird about this, but like my mom was like, "Oh yeah, just take these spoons. You could like play with this ball of mercury." Like mercury
That's what I just
substance is
said.
actually kind of cool.
I just talked about
I didn't
how
touch it.
insane that is.
It is insane. I touched mercury with a spoon
I have
once.
to go.
Remember that time you rode in that random truck down to see your grandma?
Oh, it was like a dozen times. It wasn't a random truck. It was Ron. He was a truck driver.
Okay, anyway, so back to this case.
I'm still alive.
Just to put a face to the names of some of these victims, I wanted us to take a moment to think about it. So go to the drive, and there is a photo of one of the probable victims, Doris Mae Tierney. Look at how cute.
She's just a little old bubby. She's
I know.
somebody's bubby.
She's so precious.
Doris.
Her little, how she curled her little bangs.
I
I know.
love her hair.
I know.
Oh,
Doris
she's so
Mae
sweet.
Tierney. So she her body was never identified, so they don't know if she was one of where the family, they had the ashes tested and it was concrete dust. And then her body wasn't identified from the 339, so they just don't know what happened.
Wow. Rest in peace,
Doris.
little Doris.
Mae.
You're so sweet.
And then I have 2 quotes from 2 other victims' family members, just so we can focus on the victims here. Quote, my father was cremated there, in parentheses, we hope.
Oh, God.
His remains...
Let's assume.
No, like the writer wrote that, not
this.
me.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Let's assume.
His remains were never found on the property, and we have human cremains tested after retrieving them from his grave and having them analyzed by the GBI. There is no way to know whether they are actually my father, but by faith we believe they are, and so we reinterred them to his grave. And still, I say, he has served his time. It is now time for all of us, including him, meaning Ray Brent Marsh, to get on with our lives. Forgive him and those that have done us wrong. Don't remain bitter, yet find the happiness that is there for us, if only we can seek it. So that was a family member, Jay Westmoreland. And that's
nice. I like that.
his opinion. And then other people have other opinions and feel like he didn't serve long enough. And so this is another survivor, Jessica Norman. He returned my step-grandmother in her urn as soil and silver coat buttons. She was to be cremated in a hospital gown. So, like, they were returned remains with buttons in them that didn't belong to her.
Been sifted out anyway.
So she was just a pile of decay on top of another loved one's decayed matter. No matter what he does now and how great he seems, their evil is hiding in there. Evil doesn't just go away. He should be spending his life in prison. So I feel for both, you know.
I do too.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to get over something like that. I just think that there has to be so much like mental health shit going on here.
Right.
Well, and like the importance of closure in any sort of relationship, like I think us as living, would be like closure with an ex-boyfriend or whatever. It's like that's enough, but like especially closure with a person you love.
Right. There's so
Jesus.
little closure as it is in grief.
Right.
Yeah.
That then
Yes.
to be re-traumatized by something like this would be so horrible. Just horrible. I can't even imagine it.
Right.
So I feel for all of those people.
Of course.
I think that like grieving for a loved one takes a lot of forms. A lot of people grieve in every different way imaginable, but like, God, yeah.
Mercury's a bitch.
I feel very
Mercury
sorry.
in retrograde.
Mercury in the palms of one hands are a bitch.
In the palms of babes.
Of Lucy's hands. Are we ready for my case?
I don't know. How many
Yes.
Shaw Mo's you got?
I don't have that many Shamos, but there are similarities here.
Uh-oh.
So prepare yourself
Okay.
for cremation. This case also like was discovered / this person was apprehended like days before COVID lockdowns began in the US, which means not a ton of information, and the trial hasn't started / completed yet because of COVID delays. So there will have to be follow-ups at a later date, and my segment is not like super long as a result of that because I can't wrap it up.
It's in progress.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
So when you're choosing cremation care services, you want the best for your loved one, but also it's fucking expensive as hell. It gets very expensive. So naturally, folks will be drawn to the services of a company like Affordable Cremation Care.
What was
Oh,
what was the place with the
sounds like a bargain.
Aptly named.
4 seasons?
Four Seasons
Total landscaping.
Total Landscaping.
I follow them on Facebook. It's
So good. So Affordable Cremation Care is located in, I don't think I'm going to say this right, Klamath Falls. My hands are feeling a little
the
Klamath. You do the Klamath.
Klamath.
In Oregon. It's China. The owner, Max Bodzin, you put your bods in the
oven.
cremator, was interviewed by Herald and News in July of 2017, right after their grand opening, about the services he offers. And he said in that interview, quote, "I noticed a problem in the community. People are paying a lot of money for cremations. We're going to do that same service for a discounted price for about a third less of the cost. The article continues to highlight how he became interested in providing financially accessible services after working in a funeral home in 2006. His business model boasted provision of services by being a one-man shop, handling all parts of funeral care himself. Max does this.
That's not something to be proud of.
I know.
By
it's
the
not
way.
a life you can hang your hat on.
No.
With the occasional help of part-time employees. He continued on to say, quote, I was truly inspired by how much the community appreciates the funeral director in the long run. Like, you're in this for clout, weirdo? At first, I thought my interest was going to be the embalming and the preparing of bodies for
My
funerals.
interest?
Yeah, because that's what he
don't like
was trained in. You have no reason to like him, and you will continue to not like him, so settle it.
I don't.
I don't. He continued on to say, I love meeting with families and getting them through their hard times. He said, when I started meeting with the families, I found my true passion. He was qualified for this position. He's a 2014 graduate of Mount Hood Community College Funeral Service Education Program. He's a licensed embalmer. He's a funeral service practitioner. And he also completed like 2 apprenticeships, or at least one with Eternal Hills Funeral Home. And then I think not another apprenticeship, but I think he managed another funeral home. So he has the training.
Right. Okay.
He's not inheriting a family business.
Right.
He knows what to do.
This is his
And
career.
he wants to provide a service in an affordable way in his community. So like on the surface, cool. So though he was trained to embalm, he focused on cremation, which at the time was a growing trend with cremations like Lucy mentioned earlier in her segment. It was up about 50%, or it was at about 50% in like popularity of like whether or not you're cremated or embalmed and buried. And it was continuing to rise steadily from what had been a mere 4% decades prior. So in over the course of like 50 years from 2017 or whatever,
Pretty common.
to it's kind of a it's a coin toss over whether or not folks are going to opt for cremation. So cremation was also a cost-effective solution, which was fitting for affordable cremation care. Quote,
the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, the Obama Cremation Care.
Obama cremation.
The Affordable Care Death Act.
So Max said, quote, our name says it all. First off, it's affordable. It's not what this community is used to with cremation. And we're going to take care of the people here, the families as well as the deceased. Well, that soundbite didn't exactly hold up.
Oh, no.
No. To keep affordable cremation care affordable, you gotta get creative.
Gotta cut corners.
You gotta cut coroners.
I'm dead. You gotta cut corners.
Deceased. Wow.
I liked it. I liked it.
So on January 15th, 2020, when the county's medical examiner, John Doherty, called the Clammy Falls Police Department to share concerns he had, they got a little shock at his accusation. Quote, Mr. Doherty told me he was concerned that a local funeral home, Affordable Cremation Care, was out of money and was storing bodies at the place of business because they were unable to dispose of them, the reporting officer said. Doherty was convinced that Affordable Cremation Care was accepting money for cremation services from new clients, which, like, is the client the dead person or are the people making the arrangements?
Whoever pays.
Whoever pays is the client. But couldn't actually... Highest bidder. But couldn't actually afford the cremation service, which we'll get to. So they were stashing bodies and dodging questions from the families as to when they would get the remains back of their loved ones. And also the death certificates that was included in the services they provided is usually get the remains and the death certificate back. The funeral director can like handle all of that for you. And they'd paid for this. So these families, they'd paid at minimum $1,000 for basic services. I think the most expensive cremation services he offered were like just under $4,000, like $3,700. When I made arrangements for Unsinkable Helen, that was literally $5,000 for cremation and like the most basic box ever to get the remains back in. It's bonkers. So the families would wait weeks and never get the remains or the death certificates back from Affordable Cremation Care. When they would call to follow up, Max would like make excuses and dodge questions, sometimes just not answer the phone.
Yeah.
And some folks became so fed up with the lack of service and like difficulty of getting answers that they hired another service to go get the body from ACC.
By
and
another
Max.
service, you mean an Uber driver.
Yes. and complete the cremation service elsewhere. Because they were like, you're clearly not fucking doing this.
Yeah. It's taking
Like-
way too long.
Yeah, well, something's not right. So this backlash
We haven't
certainly
even
sparked...
gotten our breadsticks.
Right. I've been sitting here for weeks. Where is my cremation server? So this backlash certainly sparked the investigation into ACC's business practices. Witnesses began to come forward describing the situation in there, which was not great. Because other crematory services were taking over some of the family's arrangements, so they would have to go to ACC and pick up this body and go take care of it. So they saw some
Yeah.
off shit when they went to pick the bodies up. Several reported that there were at least 5 bodies in the on-site refrigeration system from the deceased awaiting cremation, which is not abnormal. But then there were at least 4 more on tables in the garage,
This is
just
very similar.
decomposing and emitting a strong, noticeable odor.
No.
So very like yours, various states of decomp. Not enough room in the actual those like refrigerators that you slide the bodies in and out of. So they just stuck them on tables out in the garage
Yeah. I'd just wipe it down.
in
Play some beer
Temple,
pong on it.
Oregon. I can't. And some of the yes. Okay. The investigation discovered that ACC had bodies in various states of decomposition stored at the facility from as far back as September 30th, 2019. And again, they discovered this in January of 2020. So that's like several months that these bodies are sitting in these garages or in in refrigeration. Yeah.
At that point, it would be really horrific and hard to even move it.
Yeah. Yeah. So from what I understand,
ick.
ick, and ish. From what I understand, in like the limited information I have, Affordable Cremation Care as a business did have on-site cremation capacity, but at a capability, but at a low capacity.
Right.
So they often served as a middleman agency that accepted the deceased, prepared death certificates, prepared bodies for cremation, but then delivered the bodies to other local crematoriums to actually perform the cremations.
So they had just a small oven they needed to contract out to
They
the bigger
outsourced.
ovens. Yeah. Okay.
So families would pay ACC, and then ACC would have to pay the other companies who performed the cremations. So with this suspicion of ACC not paying other crematoriums for services, the breadcrumbs were getting really easy to follow, because then other crematoriums were coming forward and
They're like, yeah, they owe
spilling
us.
the beans, the corpse beans. So investigators interviewed other crematoriums in their network and confirmed that appointments would be made, corpse delivery would be arranged and expected, and then the appointments would be canceled last minute. And so when Max canceled these appointments, which Max also in a very weak attempt to explain away why he wasn't taking these bodies to be cremated where they could actually be cremated, is that he was like, oh, my car got stolen in December, my SUV or my van or whatever that he uses.
Did he have
Which-
a gambling problem or a drug? Where was
We'll
his
get
money
to it.
going?
We'll get to it. So yes, he did report his vehicle stolen on December 2nd, but there were bodies that had been there since September.
Right.
So this is not why. Maybe it's why these most recent ones weren't
It's like
brought.
a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And he just can't
He can't keep up. Yep. That's exactly what's happening.
Wow.
So he would tell these crematoriums when he would call and last minute cancel. He literally said well, I can't afford to pay for the service that's scheduled, so I have to cancel. They knew. So as this got more and more out of control, like you said, the owner of Affordable Cremation Care came under fire. So like our man of the community, Max Bodson, keeping bods in his garage. So this is again from Herald and News. Quote, according to court documents, Officer Joseph Foreman identified the bodies and that one had been stored there since September without being cremated, despite the family having paid for the service. Payments ranged from just over $1,000 to just over $3,700. And in court documents, Bodson told Officer Foreman that he couldn't afford to cremate the bodies after the family's payments were used to pay the business's bills and his car was stolen in December. Several of those who paid Bodson for the services claimed that they had a difficult time reaching him as he wouldn't respond to texts or calls and his voicemail box was full.
Yeah, he just couldn't keep up.
ignored.
Oh my God. I'm like stressed out.
Thinking of all the people that are hounding him and all the dead people that are mounting up. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone who has had, like debt collectors.
Oh,
calling,
1,000% same.
Or like, unanswered emails piling up. It's so stressful. God.
It's very stressful.
Well,
So the Clambath
triggered.
County Detective Attorney Eve Costello said, or District Attorney, excuse me, said that they've filed theft charges, obviously, because he's just taking money from these people. Theft charges stem from the lack of services provided for the money that families paid. And then there are also abuse of corpse charges that involve the failure of Bodson to meet the state mortuary board guidelines of cremating a body within a certain time period because they're not embalmed. And if you cannot properly store them, I mean, we've been over this.
Right.
So these charges are brought against him and police have to go, somebody come get her. They got to go get her. And when officers go to arrest Bodson,
she is dancing like a stripper.
she's dancing like a stripper. They find him dancing like a stripper at a local bar called the Purple Parrot.
Drowning
And
in
in
sorrows.
a huge, and in a huge shock to literally no one, he was arrested with 2 baggies of meth on his person. And if you look at the drive at his mugshot, with how bulbous his head is
Yeah.
and how scary his ears are,
He's really scary.
Yeah.
If
the
I
next part,
saw him,
Yar.
I would
yup,
definitely cross the street. This guy is really
Wait,
scary.
Bodson?
yes, the
Oh,
bald,
yeah.
the
His
bald
scary eyes.
one.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, just look at that photo while I read the next part.
Yeah.
Also turns out that Bodson was a registered sex offender in Florida, but had not
you don't
registered.
say.
Yeah, shocked. But not registered in, he had registered in Oregon, but not at his current address. Like the last place that he had registered was when he lived in Portland, and he hadn't lived in Portland for a while. So he was definitely breaking the law there.
Okay.
Which added out of compliance sex offender charges to the list for him as well. In 1999, he was charged and convicted in Florida for, quote, lewd or lascivious conduct with a child under 16.
Oh, okay.
So
he's
there's just
just the worst possible person.
Yep.
Also, can we talk about how their tagline for Affordable Cremation Care is guaranteed lowest cremation prices in the basin?
The basin. Yeah.
What's the basin?
Well,
Like
probably
that
like the
geographic area.
Yeah, that area where
Oh,
they live.
God.
But it
Ish.
is the signage not great. The building real spooky.
Their sign has got to just be their business card blown up.
1,000% that's what it is. Like without question. No
This
question.
fucking meth-addled
Sex
offender on the run.
He's not even on the
created
run. He
a-
just he fucking didn't register at his
Right.
new address. But like,
Created
yes,
like
out
a-
of compliance.
Fucking Ponzi scheme of rotting
Cremation
corpses.
services. Yeah. There's just something about a registered sex offender leaving Florida, setting up roots on the other side of the country and starting a janky funeral home that just tracks. I don't know.
It tracks.
It just does.
It all checks out.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So he was arrested and charged with unlawful possession of methamphetamine, obviously out of compliance sex offender charges, 5 counts of theft in the first degree, 2 counts of theft in the second degree, and 7 counts of abuse of of a corpse in the second degree. So there were like 9 corpses found on his property. I think they could only give him 7 counts of abuse of the corpse because there were some that were like were being refrigerated and were more recent. So they like were technically in compliance, but there's no way that he was going to have them cremated.
God damn it.
So he pled not guilty and was held on $100,000 bail. In March of 2020, he was released on his own recognizance, and the last article that I could find is that his trial was pushed back to February
Because of
2020.
COVID.
So, like, these were the early days of COVID when they were like, 2 weeks will be fine. We'll get this under control. LOL.
We'll get there.
Stay home and stop the spread. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I know. You remember that? I remember being like, oh my God, 2 weeks. I can bake challah. I can.
Yeah.
Oh, God. No.
What a relief.
Yeah. So I am setting a Google alert for Max Bodzin because I want to know if anything else pops up and if there are any locals to Clambath Falls that are listening and have an update, like, please at me because I want to know, and I could not find anything concrete.
Also, memorize this guy's face because
If you see
he's
him in the wild,
menace to society.
go the other way.
Yeah.
All right.
Run the other direction.
So that's my case.
Well done.
good job.
a lot of similarities.
A lot of similarities. Turns
No
out,
Shamo and no mercury poisoning, but we can't all hit the jackpot on cases.
you know, if you fall behind, it's really hard to catch back up.
Confess. Confess.
Ask for help.
Stop accepting new bodies.
Also, don't rape children. Also, don't do meth. Okay, so
Right.
special thanks.
Don't
this
do meth
week.
is the lowest on that list.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're good.
I don't.
In no
I don't
particular
know.
order, but we all know the
Okay.
right order.
In some particular order.
We all know the correct order. I didn't say it in order. So
Right.
anyway,
Don't rape children is kind of at the top.
that's the first one.
Got it.
Indisputable. Okay, so special thanks this week to our fan picker, Ashton Salazar, and their friend, M.
EM,
not
you
M.
two shook me to my very core.
God damn it.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thanks,
you so
I
much.
guess.
That was good.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.